Hey everyone, it's Theresa, and today we have some Farmhouse spring DIYs, and they are inspired by some high-end decor. So let's go ahead and get into them. First, we're going to start off with some of these large paint sticks. They're like the gallon size. I think I got them for like $1.50 or so for 3, so you do need 4 of them total, so you'll get 2 packs. And you're just going to cut them off at an angle, at a 45-degree angle. You need 2 that are on the shorter side and 2 that are on the longer side. We're basically making a frame. If you don't want to try to do this, I definitely recommend just getting a wrapped canvas and taking off the wrap part of it, the canvas part. I stapled the back of it, and now I'm going to go ahead and glue it all together. I had a little bit of a problem with getting these to be the right length, so I actually had my husband clean them up on the saw. So like I said, if you don't want to do any of this part, what I would recommend is just getting like a 16 by 20 wrapped canvas. Usually you can get them on a pretty good sale at like Joann's or even Hobby Lobby. Just about any craft store you can get those, or Michael's as well. They often, a lot of times, these all do pretty good big deal here and there, so you can get them pretty inexpensive. So once I've gone ahead and added all my glue, I'm going to do a little bit of filler in there just to seal it all up, and I'm going to also be doing everything to 2 of these little planks. I'm going in with this wood tint, walnut wood tint, and I did this to all of my pieces of the frame part, and then also to 2 of those wood planks from Dollar Tree. And we're just going to go in with some of this white paint you're seeing right here, and we're going to do a pretty good amount of whitewashing on it. Now, if you're not the biggest fan of like Farmhouse or this type of Farmhouse, it's like more rustic kind of thing, just don't do the whitewashing. It's pretty easy. My inspiration was not whitewashed at all, but I personally wanted it to be more in the Farmhouse direction. So if you don't like it, if it's not your thing, that's okay. Just leave it one solid color. I think more of like a reddish toned stain would be really pretty. Like I said, I'm going to do the same thing to my planks, and on this one, I'm just going to do it on the front, and then I believe on the other one, I did it front and back. So now we've got a decal. The grass is greener where you water it. How true is that, you know? We're just going to put that down here. I will leave the names of the fonts for you below. I believe they're just pretty much a standard font, and I'll leave the link of where I found that little water can. I try my hardest to find ones that are free because I don't pay for the Cricut design space. I've used it a few times here and there, but I don't pay for it, so I don't want to have to pay for my decals. Now, this stuff that you see right here that I'm adding onto the back side, it is actually gutter guard. It's like some kind of like plasticky gutter mesh, essentially. I thought about using some chicken wire, but then I'd seen a few videos where people were using chicken wire and they're like, oh, it's so hard to work with because it's really sharp. And I was like, yeah, it looks cool, but I don't want any part of that cutting myself up for to make a DIY. So I was looking online and I found this, and on Amazon it's like $2. It's $2 for like a roll of like 20 feet or something ridiculous. So I'll link it for you below, and feel free, just if you don't mind using my link, I'd appreciate it. I would get a tiny little commission off of $2, probably not even a penny, to be honest. But that is, I would definitely recommend looking at using some of this stuff. It gives you a very similar effect without the, sharp craziness that is your, that is going to be like the chicken wire. I like the chicken wire too. That looks cool as well. So what I did is I stapled it all down, and then I went in with a very, very thin fishing line and actually started tying it together. That would be my recommendation. I tried hot gluing it and it looked like a major mess, so I don't recommend doing that, and that's just seems like that's the best option from what I could tell. Now I do glue down this part here in the middle, and I have some parchment paper underneath it. That way when it stuck, I mean it did still stick to it, but I could get it off pretty easily. And now we're going to take our other plank and we're going to basically create a little shelf. We're going to glue it on to the frame. You probably could do a better job than I did to center it, but that's okay. We're going to disguise that anyways. And then I'm going to give it a little bit more reinforcement. So I'm going to take a short wooden dowel. I think I actually cut down a long one, but you could definitely use just like a short one from Dollar Tree. I think I ended up using one of those somewhere along the way. I put it on one on the underside and on the back of it, just to, like I said, to give it a little bit more reinforcement. And we're just going to add a little bow right here. I don't know. I wish I didn't have a thicker ribbon that I liked for it. So I went with the shorter one. I might switch it out for something a little bit thicker. And here's how I styled it. I added just that really cute little, water pot with some florals. It's just super pretty for spring. Now, next one we're going to do is we're going to take one of these dowels. This dowel right here that you're looking at is actually from Hobby Lobby. It was like a 36-inch piece one, and I just cut it in half to be able to make like the top and bottom of this next project. We're going to take some wood glue. I somewhat measured out at least, kind of where I'm going to put some other wooden dowels, and now we're going to start gluing them down. We're just going to do our wood glue on one part of it, and then we're going to start adding on our hot glue. And as I was doing this, I'm like, this will probably be a whole lot easier if I just put it down on its side. So I end up wiping it all up again, starting over, try it again, and see, yep, now we're going to be a little smarter. I'm going to add my wood glue, add my hot glue, stick it down, try to hold it for a little bit, just long enough to hold it, and get it into place. And then same thing with all of the other ones. Now this pack of wood dowels that I'm using here, I think came in like a pack of 10, I want to say, from Amazon. I'll have it linked for you below as well. It's a little bit thinner, like a little more narrow. I want to say like the large one is 1/2 inch, or maybe 1/4 inch. I can't recall. I'm sorry. I'll get it down in the description box for you though. And then the other ones that are running the other direction are half that size. So no matter what size you go with, if you want to recreate this project, you want one on the bottom and top to be a certain size, and then the ones here in the middle part to be like half that size. So I'm going to add some hot glue down to the back side of it just to give it a little bit more reinforcement. And now we're going to add the one on the top part or bottom part, depending on how you look at it, right? Originally I tried to measure it out like the same way I did the first time around, and I was like, well, that didn't work out the way I had expected. So I ended up, I don't think I ended up going with too much of my markings that I had. I just kind of gave myself a little spot to go off of. I'll be really honest, there's like one of those runs that's going from top to bottom that is not the straightest, but that's okay. We're going to add some stuff to kind of mask that as well. Just don't tell anybody, okay? Don't tell anybody I made it crooked. I'm a professional after all. So same thing, wood glue, hot glue, press it down. You're going to let it set for a little bit. I think I probably let it set for a couple of hours just to make sure that it was all there, all on there. So here it is. It's all put together. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to do a coat of the the Waverly chalk paint in ink. Goodness gracious, can't talk. And then I'm taking this scrap piece of wood. You see it came from like a wine crate or something. And I'm just going to do a really light coat of that Waverly wax. And we're adding this decal, Love Grows Here. And it was funny, all of these things that I put like decals on and writing on, I just used the same piece of transfer tape like over and over again. And I think that this is probably the second project I think I did with it. And you can see I've got like various pieces. You know what? It's one of those things. It's like, why not just reuse it? That way you save yourself some money. So we're going to add that on. I'm just kind of playing with the placement a little bit, figure out where I would like it. And we're just going to do some hot glue. And I'm smart about it. At first I was going to just throw it on the back of the larger plank. I was like, wait, nope, that won't work out very well for me. So just put it on your runs where your sign's going to be. And that part is all set. And now we're just going to add these little bottles. They're from Dollar Tree. Yes, I had to think about that. They're from Dollar Tree and they're just perfect for this particular project. My inspiration that I'd seen actually had glass, but glass adds so much weight. And when you've got stuff held together with, hot glue, And granted, I do have, obviously these pieces of wood are done by the wood glue too, but I just think that plastic on some projects is so much better, so much easier to deal with than to add glass, because glass, it adds your weight, and if anything happens and it like comes apart, it's going to make a big mess. So here it is. Like I said, we disguised how one isn't exactly perfect with that little bit of lavender. And on the next one, you're going to need 2 pizza pans, and we're going to paint them both with this plaster color paint. And I have this beaded garland. Now, this project was one of my problem children in this video. So the garland is still, all strung up. And what I would recommend, which is not what I did in this video, I would recommend leaving the string in there. Tie yourself a good knot on one end and leave the string there, because it's going to really help. And in a minute, I'll tell you what happened. I don't think I showed it. But basically putting down all of my hot glue. And another thing I would recommend, if you have something that you use like E6000, or I use a Gorilla Glue for it, I would recommend doing that either in addition to the hot glue or in place of the hot glue, because it did not hold as well as I would have liked. So here we go. We're going to take off, our little spot with the beads. I should have like measured it out ahead of time. And here's my moment. I should not have done that. I pull off the string. You should have left it, Theresa. It was fine. You couldn't see it. The reason being is because there are some little spots here and there that did not get a great adherence with the glue. So I put it all together, and then they start rolling around. A couple popped out, and see, here it is. I was like, well, maybe I just need to redo the gluing down part. And so here's my Gorilla Glue that I use. I prefer this to E6000. It sets up much faster. And see, I'm thinking like, well, maybe if I put it behind there, it'll work. No, you should have just left the string on there. So like I said, if you have a beaded garland, and it was so funny. I thought I was so smart. I was like, I'm going to just take the string out of the beaded garland, and it's going to work out so well. Oh goodness, Theresa, it should have just left it. But that's all right. It ends up coming together in the end. So we put down that lid, and then I spent probably a good half an hour re-gluing some of the beads that came out. So I ended up painting them though, and now they're all in there and they're fine. And I'm using this little round contraption. I'm not really sure what to call it, or some kind of round ruler type of thing. My husband got it for me from Amazon. I'll have it linked for you. And what it's great for is helping you find the center point and making points of where you're going to put something down. Now, my only trick so far has been to figure out what exactly I'm supposed to use that'll fit in those little holes. What I end up doing is I get this little pointy thing from Dollar Tree, and I end up just kind of scratching a little spot, hold it steady, scratch a spot with it, and then, use it, hold it steady again, and scratch the spot, basically making myself like little reference points of where to put that candlestick. Now that's obviously a candlestick. I painted the same color paint, see, I'm going to just then color it in a little just so I can see where to place my candlestick using my Gorilla Glue. And once we're going to put that on there, see, I'm doing like a combo on this one too, Gorilla Glue, hot glue. And we'll use those little dots that I made as a reference point of where the middle is. I'm sure it's probably still not perfect, because that's just me. So here it is. It's all together, and here it is, all finished pretty much, except, we can't just leave it white. My inspiration that I seen, it was actually just white, but I wanted to give it a little bit of the antiquing. You know how it is. We like to do that here, is just give it some antiquing. Otherwise, it's like I'd have to worry about it getting dirty or whatever. I have 2 kids. White stuff just does not have any place in my house right now. You guys will have to let me know in the comments. Is that how your house is too? Is like white one of those things you can't seem to ever keep like that color in your homes? Between that and between dogs and kids and all that. So basically what we did, we just, like I said, we did a good coat in that. And now we're going to go back with that same plaster color and kind of, you know, adjust a little bit of the spots that I thought like were a little too heavy-handed. It helps blend it out. It just, I don't know, I'm liking this. This is actually a little tip I had taken from Savannah from Savvy Crafts with Savannah. I'll have her stuff her channel linked for you below, but that's kind of how she does it. She'll put down a layer and then kind of go back and forth, and I'm really liking it right now. So I am going to definitely recommend you guys check her out if you have not already. She's great. She's hilarious. You're going to love her. If you're not already, you know, subscribed and watch her already. In which case, obviously, you do love her. So here it is all finished. I really like that distressed look. I think it's going to be really pretty. And here's our next project. And we're taking one of these little crates and some popsicle sticks, large craft sticks, whatever you prefer to call them. And I'm just going to snip off one side, measure out where to cut on the other one using my handy dandy miter shears. And then we're going to see, there's going to be like a little bit, it's a little bit too wide. It was weird. Like this one was a little too wide. The next step down was a little too thin. So they're pretty easy to cut down this way because that's the direction the grains of wood are going. So we'll just cut it down and we're going to glue it down on each side. So you'll need 3 basically on each side. And this one was a little too long. I didn't go back and check it like I should have. So I just trim it down a little bit with my craft knife and then I'll sand it just to kind of fix it a little bit. So it doesn't have to be perfect because this is going to just be one of those little mini book stacks. I got the idea of using this from Sammy from Unicorn Dust Designs. And so basically we're just going to do a full coat, which I believe I already did. Yep, full coat of the plaster from Waverly. And we're going to add our decal, and it's just Spring Has Sprung. I thought it was cute. I saw this from Hobby Lobby and decided it was cute. I needed to make one myself. So we're just going to add our decal. It's in actually like a dark navy blue permanent vinyl, and I thought that was kind of cool just because you'll see here in a minute what we're going to do to the top part of our little book stack. So that part is done, and this is the part that I got from Sammy. Is we're actually going to add some little bits of lining on each side, like if you were looking at the books from, you know, one certain direction or the other. And I just kind of, you know, smudge it in a little bit. You can use pencil, you can use marker, pen, whatever you want to do. If you use marker, I would say you probably just need to do like a light coat of paint over it. So now it looks like it has pages. So like I said, we did not paint that top part as you're looking at it right now. I didn't paint that because we're going to add just a little bit of this material. And this is from Dollar Tree. And if I had had paper, I probably would have done paper over the material, but I didn't have it. So we're just going to add on our one part of it on here. I'm sorry, you can't see it. Basically, I added just a little bit of glue. I had cut it down a little big on purpose and tried to get like those first couple of those first 2 spots straight, you know, when I was cutting it. So because I knew those parts were going to go down first. And now what we'll do is we're going to just kind of start to cut off. Nope, I lied. I'm sorry. We're going to glue down all of the other parts down first, and then we're going to cut it. That way it gives us kind of like that perfect line. See, I was smart. I was like, let me do this part, glue it down first instead of trying to make sure it's going to fit perfect, because you want to kind of stretch it and make it very taut on this little book, you know, faux book pile. And then I'll cut down all of that excess right there. It's not going to be the most perfectly straight line, but it's in the back. So I was like, well, you know, it's okay. I added a coat of Mod Podge on it just to give it, you know, a good longevity. And I really actually like the texture it gives it. It's a very smooth texture. Like I almost imagine that's what it would be more similar to what you'd find on a book. And we're going to go in with some Parisian gray paint from Folk Art, and just to give it a little bit of a shadowy effect. My husband actually looked at it and he was like, it needs like a little shadow. I was like, you know what? You are right. You are right, honey. It does need a little bit of a shadow. So I just go over it a little bit, give it a little something something, and of course I went a little too heavy at first, so I go back with that same white paint to, you know, tone it down a little bit. And we're just going to wrap around some twine. I already made those beads. I'll list the paint colors for you below in case you're interested. I just added a few little beads for the garland, make a little bow. Eventually, and actually, you know what? That's what it was. I decided against the bow because I couldn't get it to work right with the beads that I had already added. In reality, I probably should have just, you know, waited. But I'm going to cut off the excess, and then I'm going to just make a quick little, you know, shoestring bow. And we're just going to glue it on there instead of having it tied on there, and it'll work out just fine. So here you go, all finished. Isn't it pretty? It's cute. It's just something nice just to add a little something somewhere, you know. Last one, not really sure if I should count this as a DIY, but we are going to anyways. I already cleaned off all of these rocks with some rubbing alcohol, and I made just a couple of little things here to add on to it. Funny story, the reason I need these because my husband has for the last several months kept looking at this thing of sage outside, and he's like, oh, I need to go get some basil. And I'm like, that's not basil, that's sage. He'll come back in with it, with some of it in his hand. He's like, you know what? This is sage. This isn't basil. I said, I know. I've told you that. I don't know how many times. So he won't forget this time because they're going to be marked. And we're going to coat that with just some dishwasher Mod Podge because it's going to be outside. Here they are. Simple, but great. But by the way, those rocks did come from Dollar Tree. Here's all of our projects all finished up. And I really appreciate everyone coming over, checking out this video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't and give me a good side, you know, a nice thumbs up. And I will see you next time.